Hello and welcome to the channel, and welcome back if you're already a subscriber. Now I must admit to start with that title, am I going to destroy my beloved Bonnie, might be a bit of clickbait, perhaps can be construed as that. Maybe I should have put defaced instead of destroy, but anyway, let's get on with it. This big box has got something to do with it. Now I'll turn it over and it'll give you a few clues. Those of you who are bikers will recognise the name Shad. Yeah, it's a top box. Now I always said I don't like top boxes, to be honest. They got the place, I suppose, on big cruisers and big tourers, but I never thought I would be in a position where I would want to fit a top box, but I find myself in that position. Let me try and justify myself first. As you know, I go out and I do a lot of filming on the bike, so I go out. I do use a backpack sometimes for the cameras, which I normally do, and a small tripod. I get to where I'm going to go. The next problem is, hence this, is my helmet. So I find myself, we know where to put my helmet. If I'm going to a shop or I'm going to an event, I'm walking around with the helmet in one hand, camera in the other, and I'm trying to do the filming. Put it on the floor, it might be muddy. It might sound like excuse. It's not excuses, it's a fact. I sometimes have chained the helmet to the bike and walked off and left it, but depending where you are, I mean, I've got to remember to take the comms off it. Then I've got my gloves, put them in the backpack, I suppose, but it's a pain. So I've decided to go down the road of a top box, and I have chosen the smallest one I can, but still able, I hope, we'll find out in a minute, to still get my full face helmet in and a pair of gloves. So the idea is I will be travelling to the event or whatever I'm going with my cameras in the top box, helmet on my head obviously, and when I get there, it's cameras out of the top box. I'll probably be in a little bag or a shoulder bag or a little rucksack or something. Then the helmet and gloves go in the top box, lock the top box, off I go, safe in the knowledge that the helmet's out of sight and locked away in the top box on the bike. So as long as the bike's there when I get back, I've still got my helmet. So let's stop waffling and get this thing opened. Right, multi-tool. This was from Sports Bike Shop, and I must stress again, I'm not sponsored by Sports Bike Shop or by Shad. Actually, I am sponsored in a way, because this is the result of my two daughters very kindly for Christmas, which has just gone, getting me gift vouchers for the Sports Bike Shop, which I then decided to. So thank you very much, Charlotte and Lucy. You have now sponsored Fix Tricks Grandpop channel. So anyway, let's open this up. Right, actually I got recognised in the Sports Bike Shop, because if you've watched my channel you'll see I did a little tour of the Sports Bike Shop a couple of months ago maybe, and the young man that came outside me, we were chatting, recognised me. Let's get this out. This was genuinely the smallest one. This is the SH33. 33 standing for 33 litres. Right, let's get this off. I use a couple of keys in there, so keep careful, keep those. I use the system whereby I selected it online, try on or buy, and I went down and collected it the other day. So this is it, the Shad. Now the reason I chose this over, what's the other popular one, Gibby or Jibby, is I like the shape of this one. The Gibby ones tend to be the clamshell type. This is slightly different. About the same price as the Gibby ones, but this one you can get different coloured covers for it. you can get a backrest, a padded backrest that goes on there. So that's facing the, so that's for the passenger. So I'll probably put that on when my wife starts coming out with me in the summer. You can also get a brake light for this, which appears to be on the mounting plate. You get an LED brake light as well. So let's open it up and see what we've got inside. So you press that down, there we go. Right, what's all this in here? So we've got the keys, we have mounting plate, so that goes on the rack of the bike. This is the universal plate, it comes with all these. These start as small as 26 litres I think, and they go right the way up to 58, 59 litres I think, in different models. I'll put a link in the description for shad.co.uk. This one is a fairly basic one. It's not lined in any way, there's no straps inside or anything. One key locks the lid and also locks it to the base plate, which is obviously bolted to the rack. You can get bike specific mountings, which if you haven't got a rack, you can choose one off their website. You can choose a bike specific mounting, in which case you wouldn't obviously use that. So see what else we've got. Once you've bolted it down, that's obviously a cover plate to cover the bolts up, and in here we have a selection of mounting hardware by the different plates and stuff. So without any more to, I can't imagine that I'm not going to have to, that this is going to bolt straight on. We'll have a look in a minute, but I'm not confident this will bolt. This is a universal piece. I've got a Triumph, a Rentec rack on there, so I'll be amazed if I can actually just screw it straight on and drive away. So anyway, there it is. I'm now going to lay everything out and we'll have a look how we get on with that on my rack. Oh, before I forget, let's try the helmet. Here's my helmet. This is the AGV K5S. So well, it's not going to go in that way, is it? It's not going to close, so let's try it. See, I've got the arc system on there, which adds a bit of width to it. I've got the chin mount for the GoPros on there. It does say that this will hold one helmet, but all helmets are different. If you've got an adventure helmet with a long peak on, that wouldn't go in here. I don't care what anybody says. So took the strap in there. That's closed. It's only just, mind, there's still a gap down here and here for gloves and stuff. Let's try it this way. So I'd prefer to have that upwards. Oh, that looks better. Yeah, satisfying click, as they say. So that, yeah, the helmet fits, so otherwise I'd have been on the way back and get the next one up. They go up in quite small increments. I mean, this is the SH33, which is a 33 litre. There's a 34 litre. I think it then jumps to 36. Anyway, you can see them all on the website. Some of them, they're more squat, and you can actually mount them that way and use them as a pannier box. So you'd have a pair of them and they lock onto the pannier. You'd obviously fit that. I haven't looked into that because I'm not going to be doing that. But anyway, so I've admitted I'm going to fit a top box to this. Now the only other accessory that I would never have, it's worse, it's the only one thing worse than having a top box in my opinion on this type of machine. You know them flipping muffs, them handlebar muffs to stick your hand in, and you sometimes see the pizza delivery riders with them, but no, that would be a no-no for me. I wouldn't go that far. Actually, thinking about it, a friend of mine who shall rename Mainless, and in his defence, it was back in the 70s, before heated grips and heated gloves, he had a pair of them on his Honda, and he had a top box. Thinking about it, Craven top box. He was commuting up and down the M1 to London, I suppose, But yeah, he had both. But I'm not going down that route. Anyway, let's have a tidy up and I'll get some of this laid out and we'll see if it actually fits on there. Right, so here we have the mounting kit laid out. Obviously that is the mounting plate. The lip on the box slips under there, so that's obviously at the front, and that's the locking mechanism that locks it onto the machine. Now, as I say, this rack, I've had this since I've had the bike. I had it put on as soon as I had the bike. This is a Rentec, made by Rentec, specifically for the Bonneville. No spaces, and it just fits straight on. And I think this Rentec rack is on a lot. Now this one, obviously, as you can see, it incorporates a grab rail, so that will dictate how far forward I can put that. But there's the first problem. As I say, this is a universal mounting plate, so it would appear the outer rail on this Rentec rack is a bigger diameter than the inner one. So the outside of this is actually sitting on the outside of there, on the outside rails. Now I could bolt it down. The method of bolting, it's very clever actually. You've got 4 of these little squares. You choose, there's better, you choose, I mean there's holes with the squares. That goes into there, whichever holes you choose, and then the screws pop through there and pull it down. Now I'm suspecting you get 8 screws. Those look like they're M6 countersunk. They're about 40mm long, and you get 4 which are slightly shorter. They're probably 25-30mm. But I am almost positive, I'll just try it actually, that if I put that there, I can feel underneath. You've got these plates, which again are universal in their shape. You could put them on that way or that way, depends. If that goes under there, yeah, I just about feel in. So those screws I'm gonna have to get some longer screws. I'll go down to Screwfix or wherever and I'll get some 50mm screws. So that's the first thing. It's quite ingenious actually, because they're using a countersink. So that goes in there through the plate, and then you've got washer excuse me, and a nylock screw. So you think somebody would come along, oh, they've got a spanner to fit that, pair of pliers, and they could take the 4 screws, I'll take the whole lot away. But that being a nylock, as they start to undo that, that's just going to spin and they're not going to get them off. So quite ingenious. So that's 2 things I've got to sort out. I've got to sort out a plate or a packer or something for that, and I've also got to source myself some slightly longer screw. I'll go for some M6 50mm screws. These I can modify if I need to. They're quite sturdy, those are. They're probably, I don't know, 4mm thick, and I can either bend them a bit more or flatten them out, so I'm happy with that. And that in fact does, that goes on there, clips in there, clips in that side, so when that's on there, that's just left on there. You can still use it as a rack, which I think is quite good. So give me an hour. I'm gonna have a cup of tea and a little think about what I can do about, I could screw that straight down, but it's going to distort this plate. It's going to that's like a glass filled, heavy duty glass filled plastic. There's probably an estimate, there's probably a 2mm gap. That's 2mm lower than that. So if I screw that down, it's going to distort it. I don't want to be distorting that. So I'm going to have a cup of tea, I'm going to have a sit down, I'm going to have a think about, and we'll get back fitting it. It shouldn't take long. Right, let's get me a cup of tea. Right, welcome back. It's now the next morning. Right, as I explained yesterday, this is the universal plate. So I got no issues with having to do a little bit of messing about. The first problem was, as I said yesterday, the inner part of the outer part of that, sorry you can't see that, the outer part of this was resting on the outer rails. The inner rails were slightly lower because they're a smaller diameter. So I pondered this. I was going to make, I've got some 3mm alloy, I think it is. I was going to make a subplate, if you like, to fit inside the outer rail. And then they got to put holes in it in exactly the right place. And no, I don't want to be doing that. And then, after several cups of tea and pondering and a night's sleep, I found this. It's a piece of, I don't know if it's airline, petrol pipe, whatever it is. I've got plenty of this somewhere. Here it is, plenty of that. So I decided to build up the rails, and I'll show you that now. Right, so here are the tubes or the pipes what I've installed. You see that makes up, that is now flat. I'll put the other one on in a moment. That is now flat. Build up the rails by splitting that down there, and simply, I say simply, my hands are hence the hat, it's really cold today. Popping that on there. There's one I prepared earlier. Popping that on there, pushing it into place. There we go. So now the centre part of the rack is the same height as the outer rails, or slightly higher possibly. Now the other thing I did, obviously I've used what I've got in the garage to achieve that. I also said that there were two lots of screws, two sets of 4 screws. These are the longest, the 40mm. There were 4 30mm, not quite long enough, so screw fix, same head. Actually that's a Phillips, that's a posi drive, doesn't matter. The countersink is the important part. 4 of those, few pence. M6. The other thing I decided to do, these clamps, they're quite strong. I'm going to use those. So they're universal, so I shall fiddle about and get them to fit. But what I did, the precaution I have taken, because this is a chrome plated rack, I didn't want to damage the chrome on that when I take everything off, so I'll just put a bit of Gorilla Tape where it's going to contact underneath. So I think we're ready now to have a go at fitting that on there. So I'll probably just move the camera a little bit so you got a better view. And oh, the other thing I did before I put the camera on, you can see there, I've put that's where I'm going to put the screws, the 4 little red noggins, whatever you want to call them. I've popped that in place, and I've found the optimum position for the screws in relation to the rails. So for instance, that screw there goes through the 2 outside ones. That one there, those screws will go through there. I suppose from an engineering point of view, you want to get those spaced out as far as you can. There is an argument, I thought, at one point for maybe using 3. One there, and there, and one there. But we've got 4, so 4 is better than 3, obviously. So we'll have a crack at fitting that now. I'll just move the camera a little bit so you've got a better view. One other thing I noticed yesterday, the keys. What you're supposed to do, the key goes in, that's in the vertical position. Key goes in, you turn it 90 degrees clockwise. That locks the lid, and it locks this onto the base plate, so the box can't be removed. But when I did that, I couldn't get the key out. Right, so it would turn all right, and it would go in that position. So when you felt the key, it felt a little bit raw, if you like, a little bit sharp, a little bit. So I've had this before on keys. Sometimes I've had keys cut, Yale keys and whatever, and there is, if the cutters on the machine are a bit worn, you get a bit of burr. So fine wire brush, just give it a general going over both of the keys. Obviously both the keys are the same, by the way, you just get one spare key. I gave that a going over 3 or 4 minutes, the fine wire brush and a little bit of lubricant. I know you're supposed to use, pencil lead, carbon pencil lead is the best, but I put a little bit of ACF 50 on, and hey presto, in, turn, out. So just a little bit of a wire brush. I mean, that you can put that down as a minus mark, I suppose. That should have been spotted at the factory before they sent them out, but it wasn't. But you know, if you've dealt with keys and locks before, it's not a big issue, but I could imagine that maybe 1 or 2 people would have had that problem and taken it back. I don't know, but anyway, that's now sorted. All we've got to do now is not lose the keys. Right, as I said yesterday, there's the slot that the box goes in. There's the locking mechanism. Obviously the locking mechanism is at the back. We've got the 4 packers or tubes on there now. So I'll be governed by how far forward it can go, is how the box fits in there without touching that. So let's get the screws in first. Put that one back, that can go in there. Don't need that one. That one, and that one. We have got, hope I can, 4 nylock nuts. My hands are so cold this morning. I actually had a heavy frost, so 4 washers. I can hardly feel my fingers. How I'm going to get on holding these flipping nuts on, I don't know. But anyway, so those nuts are 10mm. So we've got a 10mm spanner, Phillips screwdriver or posi drive screwdriver. Right, take these. Oops, it's stuck together. So I thought the Gorilla Tape was a bit of a precaution. So now I'll get the camera under here in a minute when I've got these on. Let's see the best way to get them on. That way, they can go on either way, obviously, but you just want the best. You want to capture the tubes underneath in the best possible way. I think that's probably going to be the best way for that one. So now I need 3 hands here, 1 washer, there we go. Oop. I knew it. Found it right over there. Couldn't find it anywhere. Found the washer on the floor. Couldn't find the nut. Rooted round my box of new bits and pieces. Found a M6 nut, but it wasn't a nylock. Just as I was putting the box away, I caught it out the corner. How do they do it? Anyway, let's crack on. So washer, nut, whoops, clamp. Right, let's give it another go. Nut, hold that down there, hold that on there. Here we go. Right, would you believe it? First time. Right, so that's got that just finger tight. So you don't want to watch me grovelling around on my hands and knees down here. So what I'll do, I'll get all 4 loosely attached. Then I'll bring the camera back in and you can see how it looks from underneath. Right, hopefully you can see under there now. And we've got the 4 clamps on. So they're not perfect. I've considered maybe flattening them out and just having flat plates, but I think that's going to work fine. They've got the nylock nuts on there, so as I say, if somebody tries to undo the nuts, the top part is just going to spin round. So, and that's not going to be seen under there. So, right, we'll go back up the top now and have a look at screwing them down. Right, so we want it obviously as central as we can get it that way. The clamps are still only finger tight. We've got to leave enough gap there, so I'm just going to, that's central there, central there. I'll just do them finger tight. Well, I'll just tighten a couple of them up there and there, and then whoops, we'll try the box. As I say, that's got to go in there like that. Yeah, there's just I mean it's tilted up at the moment because I haven't dropped the mechanism in, but that looks as though it's going to be fine. So now, because we need a little bit of a gap between there and there, we don't, obviously it won't engage properly otherwise, so there's a couple of mil gap there, so we'll give it a go at that. So we'll tighten the rest of, we'll tighten the rest of them up now. Just do it on a gradual. Oh, one other thing I meant to mention earlier was you didn't see me throw any instructions away, did you, at the beginning of this little escapade? But it would appear that they don't come with instructions. This doesn't come with instructions in the box. You go onto the Shad website, www.shad.co.uk, and you download the PDFs for the instructions. But it just saved me chucking them away. It's self-explanatory really. There's a picture up there of what you get. But right, that's that nice and tight now. Right, I think we need to try that. So that locates in the front. When that's going to go in there, you push that forward to release the lock. I'm expecting this to be a little bit fiddly at first. We'll push that in. Oh, push it down. That's gone on. Well, well, well. Would you believe it? It's gone on first time. Does that open? Yes, it does. Right, let's get the key. Actually, I'll bring the camera around. I might move the bike forward, bring the camera around and show you the locking mechanism. Right, slot that into there. Ta-da! That's now dropped onto the locking mechanism. Push that in the unlock position, obviously. Press down nice and firmly. I'll just give that a tap. I think that's going to loosen up because everything's, judging by the fray, the burr that was on the keys. Where are they? In my pocket. There we are. Got the keys. So now that's locked onto the base plate. We've got a little gap on the rail there, so that's as far forward as it can go really. So press that down, open the box, take the money, or open the box or take the money. Who remembers that? Not many of it. That's that. So it's locked onto the thing, but you could release it and take it off. So now put your helmet in, nice and safe. Key in, clockwise, sorry. Key out, slightly harder to get out than to get in. That is now locked, and the mechanism is locked onto the base. The box is locked onto the base plate. Fixed tricks, job done. So I think I will go for the backrest for my wife, a little bit more comfort for when Pamela's on the back there. But yeah, that's it. So let's try it the other way now. Let's unlock it. That way out. So that is now unlocked, and that should press that in. There we go. Job done. Wonderful. Oh, the other thing I almost forgot was the finishing plate. So I've tightened those screws up now. We've had the top box on, as you can see. So this finishing plate, it would appear it's obviously shaped to that recess where it will hide the screws. So I think I'll pop that, yeah, pop those two little tabs in there, just flex it over, pop that in there, and that finishes that off nicely. So I say you can still use that. You can still pop a bag on there or whatever, use your bungee cords or your tie down straps or whatever, and it will still I think I will put a little bit of silicone grease just on that latch just to help it, but job done. So there we have, end of another video. I hope you found it instructive. If you did and you enjoyed it, maybe you would consider clicking like and subscribe for me. That would be very, very much appreciated. It is completely free of charge. After my little speech at the beginning where I hate top boxes, I still hate them, but I think this particular one, it doesn't look too bad. It'll serve two purposes actually. As I said at the beginning, when I'm out on the bike, I can lock my helmet away. I haven't got to carry the helmet in one hand, the camera in the other, and backpack and this, that and the other. So, and plus with the backrest on here, the passenger and my wife normally will have a little bit of a support on the back. Won't even have to use the grab rail. So, as I say, if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, very much appreciated. And that's it for now, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.